guess it's taught me how to look at one story in two ways and how there's kind of two sides to every story, because it tells the background of a terrorist and like the fact that, you know, he grew up, he was a little boy once, he was just a kid once, and he wasn't born a terrorist, he was made to be a terrorist through his experiences. And that doesn't excuse it, but it does explain it. And it explains how, like, no one's born evil, no one's born to do these things, they become that way.
This book has taught me that current events, like they happen in the real world, like things like school shootings and terrorist attacks, have real life impacts on communities, including the Muslim community and people who are even my same age in high school. And I think Maya provides a really good frame of reference for other people that are around my same age, because she's much more relatable than just a news story or an article that you read online.
This book has taught me that we can't only take in our personal experiences and like our biases when we get to know other people, and we should get to know their personalities individually.
Hi vlog, it's book club day 1. Since we're learning how to Bollywood dance.
Oh god.
Good job. Now let's do from here, and each side. Same 8. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right.
Which character, which part of the book do you relate to most?
Overall, and in this part, I think I relate to Maya because she has parents who want her to live her life a certain way. My parents aren't as strict, but it's like similar in ways, like culturally.
The character I relate most to in this book, both in one specific part and overall, is Violet, who is Maya's friend, because her parents are a little more relaxed and she's always just trying to help any way that she can. She's trying to help Maya like live her best life, even if it's not what her parents want for her, and she does her best to help her, but like sometimes she doesn't really know what she's going through and she can't really relate to her as well. And I relate to Violet the most in the part where she offers to let her friend Maya stay with her when her parents are kind of rejected.
Hi vlog, I don't need the group here. Wait, Chloe made sponge, and then now I'm gonna choose and I will squirt it, and the sponge cake is gonna absorb the milk.
What messages do you think others can take away from this book?
I mean, there's the obvious, like, racism is bad, but I feel like this book says something so much more, this sounds really cheesy, but so much more deep than the fact that racism is bad. I mean, it's kind of a given that you don't want to be racist, but sometimes people are racist when they don't think they are, and that's a problem, because the first step to solving something is to acknowledge that it's happening. And if you never acknowledge it's happening, and if you're constantly in denial, then you can't ever solve it.
I think others can take away that people experience things in different ways and have different point of views, and that they just have to respect it and not isolate anyone because of their culture, their religion, or anything.
I think the biggest message for people to take away from this book would be understanding for everybody in the situation, regardless, because the book shows us that there's multiple different points of view that different people are affected in every event. Like, her parents are worried for her, legitimately her safety, if she goes to NYU far away from home rather than a college that's closer to her. And also, like, you can see Phil, he's also worried for her, but he's also worried about Lisa, and there's a lot of just conflicts of interest that everybody needs to take.
Don't make me see Macbeth. No, we didn't. Only you. We are. Vlog. It is book club meeting number 3, and we are having a fun time. So our first activity, you guys, is gonna be, we have 2. So our first activity, so you remember when Phil wrote down to you? Oh. Happy birthday to you. We're vlogging our meetings. Us? Yes.
We have 2 birthdays.
Hey, it's me! So remember how Phil had 3 goals that he wrote down? Some were fake and some were real.
Something to do with like swimming in the Pacific Ocean.
So like whatever goals that you have in life activity, which is reading Visco text.
How many times does it take you to say my name? And then they haven't sent this yet, but it says, bro, in case you haven't figured it out, I'm completely in love with you.
Why do you have to read it like that?
Because that's what it looks like with us.
I feel like Kareem is sending it because he seems the most forward out of everybody, and I feel like Maya's receiving it.
Phil and Maya.
So Phil and Maya.
So Phil.
Kareem and Maya is just, they're more of like a brother and sister kind of thing. And like,
What's an experience that you've had that you think relates to the experience that Maya went through after and during the terrorist attack?
I've never had something that was like as severe as Maya had, but I mean, I'm like multi-race, right? So there was this one time when I was in elementary school, and my elementary school had like a lot of Asian people in it because we had a Vietnamese program. So I remember one time during recess, like a bunch of the Asian kids were on the playground or the playscape, and they were like, "This is for Asians only," and I was like, "Am I okay?" Because I'm half white and half Asian, so I didn't really know like if I could go on the playscape. And they're like, "Oh no, you're fine," but I feel like shouldn't have to be fine.
Hey vlog, welcome to the vlog.
Why am I writing in yellow?
It's so bright. I'm kind of losing my voice, but we are making cards for someone we appreciate and all that good stuff.
Hi, my name is Alia Halal, and I'm a junior at LASA, and I am Muslim. I was bullied from 4th grade to about the beginning of 7th grade for being Muslim, and most of the conflict that came was because of all the terrorist attacks. And every 9/11 or so, I get comments on my Instagram like, was your family a part of this? Like, why were you in America at the time? I wasn't even born at the time. And a lot of things that regarded me as a threat. In 4th grade, this girl made up a rumor that I was a terrorist and I had planted a bomb into a school. So a lot of people didn't want to be my friends because like, who would be friends with a terrorist? But eventually, like, I was able to win them over, and now people don't think I was here. Honestly, it's just the fact that I was a very innocent 4th grader that had to deal with that, and I didn't know that there was anything called Islamophobia until like 4th grade, with all of these rumors and all of the attacks against me for just being who I am. And the reason that I speak out is because I don't want anybody to go through it. And I have 3 younger siblings, so they've started to see all of this, and every now and then they'll ask, like, is it necessary for us to be Muslim? Like, can we hide the fact that we're Muslim? And I don't want them to be ashamed of who they are, and they should be fully accepted. So, a common misconception is just the fact that we are at the cause of every terrorist or, like, organization that ever happened. And people always think that since you're Muslim, you like ISIS, but in fact, like, most Muslims hate ISIS because they build this terrible image of who we are, and they cause people to be like, oh yeah, you're Muslims, you're a part of ISIS, and you're more willing to kill all these people. Like, why would you be a part of a religion that kills so many people? So I guess that's the most common misconception that I found. Unfortunately, there's really no way to combat Islamophobia. It's just a part of having to go through life as a Muslim. One of the things that I normally do is that I try to get people to know me at first before they know I'm Muslim, so they don't have like this idea of like a direct connection, like, oh, Muslim terrorist. So they kind of like miss a step, like, okay, well, she's Muslim, but she's not a terrible person. I guess advice for other people that are dealing with it would be just be yourself and try to show people that you're a good person, because most people are. And if you have any conflict with people thinking you're a terrorist, just prove them wrong by doing great activities, by doing charities, by being polite to people, by having good manners, by being friendly to everybody, and eventually people will start to see like that misconception is totally wrong and not all Muslims are terrorists.
So one of the current events that we thought related to our book was the Stoneman Douglas High School shooting, where an ex-student opened arms on February 14th, 2018 and killed 17 people, harming 17 more.
And this relates to our book because it's another terrorist attack and that killed a bunch of people who didn't even see it coming.
Yeah, I think even if you wouldn't classify it as a terrorist shooting, it's still an act of like mass violence that affected a lot of people, and it relates a lot to the way that Maya and her classmates go through the trauma of having an entire federal building being blown up in their city because they're all high school students and they're relating to this trauma in similar ways.
Yeah, like at my school, my middle school, after the shooting we had like a walkout, and it wasn't like the school wasn't against it. It was like it wasn't some kind of like rebellious thing, but like we went out onto the school lawn and we like protested, and we had like 17 minutes of silence, and
I think one thing that this shooting and the terrorist attack in the book have in common is that it also spurs like changes within the community that they happen in, because walkouts and protests happened after the Stoneman Douglas shooting.
Yeah, and there's like greater aversion to perpetrators too, because like after, I think it was the Sandy Hook shooting where someone wore a trench coat to people who like, it wasn't like you shouldn't wear trench coats anymore, and it was like kind of like a don't wear this kind of thing.
Yeah, and I was gonna say that it was at a high school, so there were innocent people there, so it just shows how like terrorist attacks or attacks in general affect the public and the community so much in unpreventable ways.
So another topic we wanted to talk about was the Christchurch shooting, which happened I think like about a month ago in Christchurch, New Zealand, where a white supremacist opened fire on 15th of March 2019 in a mosque, and he killed about 51 people. There were dozens injured, and it was actually broadcasted on Facebook Live, which I think is like the main like sticking point about it, is that like this man could use like technology to spread awareness of like his hatred and like his ideology.
And I think it just shows even more the Islamophobia that the world has in a very cruel way.
One of the biggest similarities I think from this shooting to the book is that both like perpetrators use technology in some point to like either become radicalized in their ideologies to like commit these acts of violence, or to like broadcast these acts of violence later, because like when Maya and her classmates are in the classroom, they're getting updates through technology, everything's like, things are being videoed, like they can see it, and also like they're all on these like forums that like are oftentimes unregulated and allow for like the breeding of an echo chamber that just continues to bounce around the same ideas.
And somehow this like attack by a white supremacist just out of like bad luck can get blamed on this Muslim man who is just coming to like get his citizenship approved, and then he gets blamed for a while for the attack, and then blame falls on Maya because she happens to share a last name with a man who was also Muslim and happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
And then it's just very unfortunate because when they did discover the actual shooter in the book, I feel like the attention and the reports weren't the same.
Yeah, it was almost too late. Like,
yeah. And also, like, most of the reports, they weren't focused on the victims. They were focused on, like, the shooter, which is what he wanted. And I think that's, like...
Yeah, one other stereotype that I think the book talks about with like Muslim people is that like every Muslim has the same ethnicity, because like after the book I remember there's this moment at school where Brian's like, you are related to the terrorists, why would you like let him do this or something like that. But the thing was that
he asked her if it was her uncle.
Yeah, Maya's family is Indian, and this man was
Egyptian.
And yeah, they're both Muslim, but like
And they
that
both have
doesn't-
the same last name. But
But that doesn't mean they're like
Related.
from the same family or related or anything like that.
Yeah, I think the same thing happened with Christchurch. It's like no one talked about where the shooter was from or like where he grew up. Everyone just talked about like his
It does say he's
ideology.
The last thing is that it shows how Islamophobia, even like Maya's book, it might be like very dramatic, but like Islamophobia might actually become a factor in like a Muslim person's everyday life for what their life is going to be, what they're going to do.
Ways like the same thing can affect different people in different ways.
Amanda, you're so kind. I'm going to cry.
DNA is mutating. How about yours? Trick question. All of our DNA is mutating because it's